My spouse and I made the decision to go on a quick getaway to a sparsely populated area close to a casino resort. We both like to play casino games, so we reserved a cheap accommodation at a well-known chain a few miles from the resort. We spent 2 nights at the motel. It was our final night together when something happened. After leaving the casino really late, roughly 2:30 in the morning, I parked our car next to a red pickup truck in the same position. My spouse and I were on the second level as we stepped out of the automobile, and I saw a man in the corner room below our room. He appeared to be in his 60s or 70s, and he was only glancing at us through the curtains. I initially thought, well, that's weird. My spouse later claimed that when he looked up at the stranger, his demeanor was emotionless and blank. I turned the corner to head up the stairs after passing his room. I could hear the room's interior barking loudly as I was doing this. Suddenly, I hear the door open, and my spouse is being approached by a pit bull that is running out of the room, growling and barking. After the door opened, my husband told me that the man holding the pit bull by its collar stared right at him before letting go of the dog. In an attempt to dodge the dog, my spouse simply retreated and began to kick at it. The dog approached him while snarling, barking, and flashing its teeth. It did not bite him. It then rushed to where I was on the stairs, back to my husband, and then back to the open door. I was screaming, "What the fuck?" repeatedly throughout the entire ordeal. It wasn't the most poetic thing I've ever said, but it was a true reflection of how I was feeling at the time. We are not individuals who have horrible dog experiences or are terrified of dogs. Rather, we have owned dogs. However, it seemed like this dog was ready to attack. I'm aware that pit bulls may be incredibly great and sweet dogs, despite popular belief to the contrary. As such, I'm not sure if the dog was abused or had spent too much time in the room. We hurried up the stairs and into our room after the dog rushed back to its owner. We were unaware of the incident, the man's identity, or the reason behind his dog's release. We requested security over the phone at the front desk. The policeman and the front desk worker arrived after about 5 minutes. When we told them what had happened, they stated they had spoken with the dog's owner, a woman below. We thought, woman? No, it was not a woman, it was an elderly guy. They said they conversed with women exclusively. They offered to change rooms, but at that point we were just scared and didn't feel safe remaining. We were really confused about what had happened as the police walked us to our car. In the end, we just opted to take the 3-hour drive home. The fact that I didn't ask them what the woman said when they arrived at the door is my biggest regret. All we actually did was tell them what had happened and head out because we were so intent on leaving. I'm not sure if the elderly man we saw had a mental illness. I know we won't be going back there for a very long time, but maybe they were upset with us for some reason or just wanted to frighten some folks. My parents were struggling financially in 1984 when I was essentially still a baby. We had to move into a local motel with weekly rates because my parents couldn't afford an apartment and thought it would be a great idea to have 4 kids with no savings at all. We spent around a year residing there. My mom was left to care for 3 children under the age of 4 by herself for the majority of the day because my dad was the only one who worked and my eldest sister was in the 2nd grade at the time. I don't recall ever living there because I was so little, but as I was growing up, I was informed about the location frequently, which I believe served as a reminder of our family's progress. One morning, when my mom was getting my older sister ready for school and dad was getting ready for work, mom observed a man's shadow against the bedroom's drawn curtains. Being a well-known timid feline, my mother quickly dragged my sister to the toilet, where my father was, and growled, "There's someone outside the window." My dad kind of rolled his eyes at her, but he still turned to face the front to see what he could make out. His mood turned when he noticed the shadow. He opened the door after moving swiftly and stealthily across the room. Immediately, the man who had been standing outside the window turned and fled wildly into the street, leaving the motel behind. With a focused gaze, my dad shut the door behind him, reasoning that if the man had been aggressive, he would have attacked instead of fleeing. In case the guy returned, he told Mom to stay home and lock the door until he got back, and to keep the drapes closed over the window for the day. Reluctantly, my mom sent my dad and sister on their way, even though Dad had to tell her that he had to leave or else he wouldn't get paid for the day. Later that afternoon, my mom decided to try soothing me into a nap on the couch while she sent my older brother playing quietly with my younger sister and watching Sesame Street because I was being such an unpleasant little crybaby. My mother was sitting on the couch, giving me back pats while I cried uncontrollably when she looked out the front window to see if anyone was watching. Indeed, there was. My mother became frightened, grabbed me from the couch, making me cry even more, and locked the three of us in the bathroom so she could phone my father at work before locking herself in with us. My father scurried back home after skipping work. When he reached our window, the man was still standing there, his hands cupped around his face as though attempting to get a closer look through the opening in the curtains. When the man came close enough, my dad punched him in the head without even offering him a warning. Dad beat the guy around after he staggered away from the window in a trance, all the while screaming things like, "You think it's okay to scare people? Is it acceptable for you to frighten my wife and children? I'll demonstrate to you what occurs to those who prowl about windows." Before the motel manager arrived to stop him, believing my dad was just hitting up some random guy, my dad struck him a few more times. In the chaos, the window creeper managed to escape. He did not return. My partner and I had a tour around California around 2 weeks ago. Our final destination was San Francisco, where we were unprepared the night we arrived and ended up staying at a Motel 6 in a very seedy area of the city, even though we had a place to stay the following day. The inside of the motel was really quite pleasant, and we had a fun perspective of the endless activities that took place on the streets below. In any case, everything went smoothly, and we spent the night indoors. We watched the Travel Channel and got terrible room service, so nothing strange happened until about 8 in the morning. We had fallen asleep soundly when we heard loud bangs against the door and shouting. In our drowsy state, my boyfriend T and I were both completely disoriented and not at all functioning. Our initial thoughts were that it might be room service sent to the incorrect room, that someone might be in difficulty, etc. T got out of bed to investigate. It's crucial to note at this point that the hotel room door was located down a short hallway inside the room. As a result, you could only hear what was happening from the bed and other areas of the room and not see the door. I hear the man shouting, "Stan, open up, man," as he continues to pound his palms against the door. I hear T say, "Hello," as I hear the door crack open. What is happening? The voice responding is that of a black man. It sounds almost shouty and frantic. "What the fuck, dude?" I hear him say. "I promised to be here by 8 o'clock. Since I can't see the door at this point, I'm sitting up in bed, more awake, and listening to the entire thing. T replies drowsily, "What? I'm not sure who you are, but I guess you got the wrong room, man." "Yes you do, man, you have my clothes, bro," the man cries back. My pulse was pounding, and I could only image T's feelings. A slight struggle at the door is audible to me, and the man's voice seems closer. It dawns on me then that he has unlocked the deadbolt by reaching his hand through the cracked door. He's currently within the space. I'm in shock about this man. "Man, let me in so I can retrieve my clothing." I hear T remark, "Listen, I don't know you," in a tone that belies how frightening the situation is. "Stan, I have no idea. I can make a front desk call. I just arrived here with my girlfriend. It was yesterday night that we checked into the accommodation." Angrily, the man cuts him off. "I don't need you to contact the front desk, man." Afterwards, he says, "Yo, man, don't be aggressive with me." There's a lengthy, quiet moment. The tension is palpable. "I'm sorry, but you have to go, dude," says T. 8 o'clock in the morning. I apologize profusely. The man responds, "Listen, I'm not carrying any weapons. Please allow me to enter. Man, I really need to take a shower." My heart is pounding at this point. I'm a 54-year-old blonde sitting up in bed, completely nude with only a sheet covering me. T is 5'7" and slender. We could never defeat someone in a fight. In the room with us is a strange individual who may or may not be doing drugs. I understand that this is more than just my boyfriend and that he has no idea I'm in the room. I make the decision to show up. I shakily call out, "T, we can head out if we have to. It's not an issue." If necessary, I intend to quickly flee, gather all of our belongings, and take off running. When he eventually hears me, the man leaps into the room and exclaims, "See, she knows him," with a smile. For some reason, the smell sends shivers down my spine. He moves through the space. It seems like an eternity until he finally realizes, T, this isn't the right room. T raises his hands and says, all right, please go." The man remains motionless. T then started gently pushing the man on his back in the direction of the door, and to be honest, I'm waiting to draw the weapon he claimed he doesn't have. "Man, it's time for you to leave." I apologize. As they approach the door, I hear the man remark, "Hey, don't push the door, bro." As though he still had no intention of going. I also hear him remark, "Don't grab my arm, man," before the door shuts. I deduce that T attempted to seize him and eject him. T responds, "All right, then please go." He sounds agitated. At last, the sound of the door closing is heard, the locks click, and I nearly pass out. I hear the man stammering outside the corridor. He seems to have vanished after an indefinite period. Excellent method of settling in a new city. After an hour or so, we departed. There was no way I was going back to sleep. We came to a stop at a crossing when we finally left and got into the car to drive out of the parking garage. I promised that it was the same man. As he crossed in front of our automobile, he turned to face it, looking straight into it with a barely perceptible expression and the deepest gaze. Above all, we were grateful to be alive on that particular day.